Moderate? That doesn't sound like you, Johnny. I'm all right. Fair to Midland. So my name's Eve, aka Hacker Huntress, and I'm going to be talking about gerbs, hacking the hustle, and I need display. Would probably be good. Or I could just talk.
Everybody move in closer.
So SQL injection walks into a bar, starts to quote something, but stops, drops a table, and dashes out. TCP IP walks into a bar, and TCP IP walks into a bar. No, that's wrong. That's the VRRP one. That's the redundancy one. TCP IP walks into a bar, says, hey, I'd like a beer. Bartender says, you want a beer? TCP IP says, yes, I'd like a beer. Oh, yeah. I'd tell you a UDP joke, but you wouldn't get it. Oh. Ah, that's the end slide. Yeah. So this is, we're doing this kind of cash. Right. So as I say, my name's Eve. I'm with Haylock Security Labs in Schaumburg. And I essentially, long story short, do recruiting exclusively for information security jobs. I do this, people ask me, are you a corporate recruiter or are you like an agency recruiter? Closer to a corporate recruiter in that I staff positions for my company, but I also staff positions for other companies. So there's this myth, right? There's no unemployment in information security, right? Right. It's kind of like there's no crying in baseball. We're all happily employed, and there's this myth statistic that I think it was the executive director of ISC Squared who said, yeah, there's zero unemployment in information security, and the statistics sort of bear this out. These are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They found 0.9% infosec unemployment in calendar year 2012. They also found the security workforce in calendar year 2012 was 52,000, which seems awfully low to me. Just for reference, there's something like 57,000 CISSPs. Raise your hand if you work in InfoSec. Keep your hand up if you have a CISSP. Yeah, no, these statistics are not right. So, but that's actually really illuminating, right? Because they could not find enough information security professionals to include in their study. And that's perfect, right? They couldn't find enough people for a representative sample size. I think that's beautiful. I think that is a statistical anomaly that is worth looking at. But for reference, web devs, whom we all love to hate, experienced 4.7% unemployment in 2012, and they're projecting 22% more InfoSec jobs by 2020, including the 4,000 cyber warriors that the Pentagon wishes to hire. And if you are a cyber warrior, by the way, please send me your resume because I'd love to know what a cyber warrior is. Thank you. So I mentioned web devs partially because if you remember back in the bubble days, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when it seemed like nobody could hire enough Java developers and you were just set if you were doing web dev, and yet the security hiring trend was kind of meh. Well, now it's starting to level off for developers, and the job market for InfoSec pros is completely awesome, probably because they hired so many Java developers. So, but the problem is, right, so we've got this great job market, lots of demand, but the problem is highly desirable skill sets, like yours, lead to highly volatile job markets. And this is for a couple reasons. Money in bidding wars, I like money. I assume the rest of you do. And the money that you can command as an information security professional is pretty darn good. That BLS, with their terrible statistics, puts out a nice round number as an average annual salary for people involved in security as $100,000. That's pretty good. I've seen way higher. I've seen criminally lower, but that's still nice. General IT churn. IT in general, there's a lot of turnover. This is just due to the volatile nature of the macro industry of technology. As technology changes, people are going to change jobs. Burnout. Jack Daniel is the person to talk to about this, but yeah, you see it a lot. Long hours, people who don't necessarily understand what you do, being highly billable all the time, being the person people run to when something is on fire, leads to burnout. And part of that is working for idiots. There's a lot, yeah, thank you. There's a lot of this, you know, and this is a whole other talk topic. Business doesn't get what I do. The business side will not give me buy-in, and there's a disconnect between getting the buy-in that I need to implement a security program that works, so they're not constantly screaming at me when something's on fire, and what I need to do, what I'm expected to do, how I'm expected to perform. So if you're working for this guy, you're probably going to quit. So people ask me all the time, all right, great, I'm looking to make a change, and what do I do? This talk is going to focus in pretty large part on resumes, because that's what I get the most questions about. Here are the problems that I see specifically for security professionals. You need to verb all the nouns. I'm going to talk more about that. Things your resume is not include a race car, a pretty princess, and a junk drawer. And the TLDR that you need to keep in mind is tell me what you can do. Don't tell me about every tool that's ever been in every office where you've worked. Don't give me vague job titles, which I'm going to talk about more. Tell me what you can do for me. And let's get a little bit deeper into that. This is a terrible resume. This is from a real resume. All of these resume samples are from real, legit resumes, which you may find profoundly unbelievable in a moment. This is terrible. Use the following technologies for client security assessments. First of all, why are you using Splunk for a security assessment? But more about that later. Perform code review. What code review? Why? What is a security assessment? Are you pen testing? Are you vuln scanning? I don't know. So this is epic fail. Right? I see this a lot, and people just list out just chunks of tools and say nothing about what they do with them. First of all, I'm not that interested in tools. Second of all, I need to know what you're bringing to the table. I need to know what verb you're verbing to the nouns. Your resume is not a race car. This is from an actual real resume. This is from an actual real resume. This is from the header of a resume. This is like the neck tattoo of resumes. All right, certs are great. And again, whole nother talk about certs. I don't care that much about them, but whole nother talk. These do not tell me anything about what you can do. These tell me about tests you've passed. And that, in terms of putting you on engagement with the client, useless. And the certs aren't that great. So that's fail. I thought Symantec Certified Specialist looked kind of lonely over there, so I'm just going to put the fail cert right there. I changed the verbiage on this just to illustrate, but yeah. Weird fonts like Algerian, different horizontal lines. Charts, I have seen this. I have seen the charts, and I am here. I have been through hell looking at these resumes. And it's, you know, this obfuscates what you can actually do. I don't want to remember, you know, your Microsoft Word formatting chops. I want to remember the impression that you gave me about how you're going to kick ass at my company, right? This is fail. I formatted it nicely, just to go with the general vibe. This is something I see a lot too. You tell me everything that you've ever done, and it's not focused on the position you're applying for or the position that you want. So all of these things are not like the other. I don't get this. Is this a QSA? Is this a reverser? Is this a firewall jockey? This person may have done all of these things, and this is actually a real problem, and I get this. I'm deeply sympathetic to this problem. A lot of you have really diverse backgrounds. A lot of you have actually been a part of all of these things or other different things. And you ask me, well, Eve, I've done risk assessments, I've done reversing, I've done auditing, and how am I supposed to cram all that into this bite-sized piece of paper? Don't. Make different bite-sized pieces of paper. Have different targeted resumes. So if you're out of work or you're miserable at your job and you think, well, heck, I could be a firewall architect or I could do auditing. Doesn't really matter to me. I like them both equally. You're weird if you do, by the way. But that's okay. Then you can use those targeted resumes, those tailored resumes, to apply for both jobs at the same time. I'm not confused. You may actually get the jobs. So this is maybe fail, can't tell. Split it up. This is win. This is from an actual real resume from my dear friend Jane Q Infosec, who worked for Monolithic Financial Megacorp, was on the job market recently, actually got a counteroffer that was quite attractive. And Jane Q Infosec has verbed all the nouns. I know exactly what Jane does. Good summary. We have job titles that actually make sense. But look, web application security engineer, in Jane's verbing of the nouns, I'm not confused as to whether Jane's a web app pen tester. I understand looking at this, looking at the integration of the tools, of the different platforms Jane has used, what Jane actually did with them, and what Jane can do for me. So this is totally win. Big win for Jane. This is really good, too. This, in the same way, just going into a little bit more granular detail, you can throw the tools in there. Don't just dump them all at the bottom of your resume or at the bottom of your work experience. Tell me what you're actually doing with them. Vulns and exploits, particularly, I love to see that because that tells me, okay, I can actually put you on an engagement and you're not just going to do a scan job. You're going to pen test. That's an example. So that's equally applicable if you're doing firewall engineering, auditing, any particular role that you play in a security profession. You got to integrate the technologies that you're working with into what you actually do with them. Win. All right, so much for resumes. I could go on, but once you have that sick resume, how do you get a cool InfoSec job? There's a variety of strategies with this. You can post and pray. This is really traditional. Toss your resume up on the job boards, wait for the recruiters to be all over you like you're the only girl at an InfoSec con, and then complain about how they ping you about jobs that have nothing to do with what you do. I know, they do it to me too. Made the mistake of putting on my resume that I know how to use PeopleSoft, and now people want me to be an Oracle PeopleSoft architect, and okay. You could spray and pray. You can apply to what's posted. This is really problematic too for reasons I'm about to get into. Or you can network in. And most of you already know this. Most of you are like, oh yeah, I know person at company, and I just hit him up, got a job there. It's been very effective. You can learn about jobs before they're officially open. You can also have people create jobs for you. This is really fun and really gratifying when you can do it. Current employees events, such as BSides, such as meetups, even recruiters can help. And this is not to be a recruiter apologia, but if you find a clueful recruiter, we do exist, they can actually help you to network into companies that maybe they're not even recruiting for. They can help you to find positions as though they were working for those companies. And I'm going to talk more about that. The problem with post and pray and spray and pray, going by job descriptions, seeing what's out there, looking at job postings, they're so vague. They don't make any sense, and they may have little or no bearing on what you're actually doing. So the IT security engineer is responsible for design, development, and implementation of IT security solutions for network systems and applications. The IT security engineer also manages the infrastructure. What? What does this mean? Can anybody tell me what this means?
Double rainbows.
Excellent. Thank you. What? What? what does this actually mean? I just don't understand what I'm supposed to take away from this. This could mean absolutely anything. So before you actually get a live human on the phone, you're not going to have any idea what you're actually doing at this job. So get a live human on the phone as soon as you can. I'm sorry, you had a question.
No, I was just going to say it means lots of money and no responsibility.
Excellent. Sounds like a great job. Can I apply? Sometimes the requirements are actually impossible, like 5 years of experience in Kali Linux. These ridiculous certs that have nothing to do with each other. PhD in actuarial math, must be local to Nome, Alaska. Got to be there. And make amazing coffee. Ability to lift 700 pounds is something I've actually seen in a job description. They meant 70. But if you can do that, you should also hit me up, because I may have a requirement for you. What is the idea behind these job descriptions? Okay, so first of all, why are they so weird? First of all, they're written by HR. And here's the way it works, for those of you who don't know. HR gets together with the hiring manager, which is usually an InfoSec job, going to be your boss. HR tries to listen to the hiring manager and tries to make some HR legal-friendly translation of what the hiring manager will say. So the hiring manager will say something like, I need a hardcore red team web app breaker. We all know what that is. HR's like, what? And tries to put that into HR-friendly language. So the other problem is they can be legally binding documents, usually written by non-practitioners, i.e. HR. So there's a lot of vagueness, there's a lot of CYA. Again, ask. It's like a tech support call. You want to get a live person on the phone as soon as you possibly can. Ideally, maybe somebody who works there, ideally the hiring manager, or failing that, a clueful recruiter. Right, so learning about jobs before they're open, friends and associates, we talked about that. Social media is often neglected. I have found LinkedIn to be meh. Twitter is awesome, underutilized. There's a hashtag infosec-jobs. We're all posting all the time, and not just recruiters, but people internal to companies. I think we can all testify. We're out there. It's a really easy way to just casually say, huh, interesting, and talk to somebody who's not HR. Talk to somebody who has the need at the desk next to them, or for the position they're managing. What is this job? And circumvent the ridiculous, sometimes impossible job description. So we're talking about bridging the gap between the hunter and the hunted. That's me, by the way. And how are we doing this? So I have FAQs about this. How do I, good question, how do I incorporate like gray hat, potentially black hat, community involvement into my resume? I get this all the time. You may encounter mistrust if you talk about this with people who are not so much practitioners. Way around that is you need to establish trust, show that you're not like zero cool or something. And then talk about what you learned. Don't say, yeah, I hacked into Paris Hilton's Sidekick and I learned about mobile pen testing that way. Just leave off the first part. Say, I did independent exploit research in my personal lab. Just put a nice face on it. And that's cool. I mean, most of the time, frankly, the hiring manager isn't going to want to know how you learned what you learned. Community involvement, highly underrated. People ask me all the time, should I put that I went to DEF CON or BSides or that I go to meetups on my resume? Yes, all the time. Mention all the things, because for anybody who is clueful, anybody who is involved in the community, they're going to say, oh, this is not a mercenary. This is not somebody who's like, I heard there's money in security, so I went into security. This is somebody who's passionate about what they're doing, and that's what I want. Other projects, patents, publications, great. Be prepared, though, to talk about their relevance. One other thing people ask me about is, how long can my resume be? 1,000 pages, as long as it's all relevant content. So if you're doing stuff that is only like vaguely tangentially related to the position you're in, one good example, I know a guy who does circuit design, but he's like a blue team defense architect type person. Went in, talked about circuit design, and it turned out the hiring manager was a big electronics geek. So that was helpful, but that was a lucky break. You need to, if it's on your resume, be prepared to talk about how it's relevant to the job you're going to be doing. Why is my resume getting so many irrelevant bytes or no bytes at all? Well, to answer this question, we need to understand something about how recruiters work. Dumb recruiting software and or process. I hear it all the time. Stupid recruiters. The recruiters may be stupid, but it's more to do with the way recruiting software works. We use these software platforms that basically crawl the internet looking for keywords. We do Boolean searches, and they call resumes, and a lot of the time they send automated mass emails, right? This is really stupid. This is why I get pings for positions about PeopleSoft developer jobs, and why you guys, if you're Java breakers, get emails for jobs about Java developers. So it's dumb. What's the fix for this? We're years away. Just give up. There's nothing we can do about this right now. There's Brazilian recruiting companies out there. They're like mushrooms, and this is standard operating procedure. They basically think of it as if 1 in 1,000 people is qualified and responds, they think of that as good ROI. That's not how I operate, but I'm obviously awesome. So it's and humble, but we're years away. That's just the way it's going to work, and just the delete button's right there. So your local market might suck. I hear about this a lot. If it's not getting bites, it may just be that there's not opportunities where you are. I think we've all been in this position at some point. You can get flexible. You could think about moving. You could really focus on remote jobs, or you could pound pavement. You could go out and try and sell your skills to companies that might be interested. Hey, I noticed a massive gaping SQLi vuln on your web page. Would you like somebody to help you with your security? I have seen this actually be effective. Possibly you didn't do what I told you to do. The fix to this is obey me. Fix your resume, network in, get involved in the community. Do you care about certifications? No, fix, and you can't make me. But it says they do in the job description. Fix, ask, all job descriptions are negotiable. As we have established, job descriptions are works of fiction, and you don't need to take them as gospel. Some organizations actually do, like the government. This is a funny story. I talked to somebody on Twitter recently. He said, oh yeah, I was there at the DISA conference a couple of years ago when they went, when the council went and told the government that in order to work on government contracts or projects, every practitioner should have a CISSP. And now the government requires a CISSP for a lot of its contracts, which, yes, it's good knowledge to have, but it by itself doesn't necessarily mean anything. So what's the fix to this? If you absolutely must have the job, get the cert, but be aware that in a vacuum it's nothing and doesn't matter. I interviewed for a job I can totally do. Why didn't I get it? The biggest reason that things fall apart is soft skills. So I've interviewed a lot of people who were technically unbelievable, sick. Sometimes they didn't communicate well, or a lot of the time were really arrogant, and that turned me off because I thought, okay, I don't want to manage an arrogant person. Fix, work on your communication skills, sales skills, believe it or not, and by sales skills I don't mean come on down to my used car lot. I mean the art of persuasion. I mean being able to write a report that makes a CIO take action. I mean being able to walk onto an engagement and say, all right, here is why you need to remediate this problem in a way that doesn't make people run for the door. You can have all the technical skills in the world, but if you are problematic on a personal level, that's actually where I've seen it fall apart. You didn't do what I told you to do. Again, obey me. I've had people doing like behavioral interviews, so maybe hacking a lab, maybe doing mock assessments, things like that, who just didn't read the directions, who just kind of went off into a totally different area and just said, okay, I want to talk for hours and hours about HIPAA gap assessments. And I'm like, this is a PCI job. So read directions, respond, just basic stuff, like the little things count. You acted like the plague and you were Joey. Again, I love this industry because I'm never the smartest person in the room. There is an amazing amount of knowledge just in this room alone. But confidence and arrogance are two different things. I have at least one conversation a day with somebody who says, nobody knows more than me about X. And it's always really funny when I have two of those conversations in a row. I kind of want to conference them in and make them fight. But, you know, maybe nobody does know more about you, more about X than you, but show me. Don't tell me that. Show me. Actions speak louder than words, and let me draw my own conclusions. Don't be the plague or Joey. Yeah, so I guess the takeaway from this is, again, I see so much talent in this room. I see so much knowledge in this room and in a lot of the rooms I go to, but it's just the basic stupid stuff that causes the gap in understanding between the cool infosec jobs you want and that talent. So don't be the plague or Joey. Have the skills. Have the humility. Don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. Be this guy. Questions? Really? That would be one dot hack.
What about degrees versus certs?
Great question. What about degrees versus certs? So are you asking, would I prefer to see one versus the other?
Not necessarily. What about bypassing the degree requirement?
With certs? That's interesting. So things that degrees and certs tell me include I paid the money, I put in the time, I took the test, I passed it. Degree tells me something similar, usually, unless it's from EMU. If it's from EMU, it tells me I am sick. There it is. So bypassing degrees with certs is fine. What I'd rather see is actual hands-on experience. I'd rather see exploit development. I'd rather see finding and publishing vuln reports. You know, a degree is great. It tells me maybe you have some writing skills. Maybe. Although I've seen people with degrees who could not write their way out of a wet paper bag. Certs, I just don't care. Sorry. I'm sorry, that really doesn't answer your question, does it? Okay. Yes?
So you say keep your resume relevant.
Yeah.
But if I'm aggressively looking for a job, how do I keep my resume relevant for the position I'm applying, but generic enough so that I could reuse it to three or four different positions that I'm looking for?
You didn't do what I told you to do. Fork your resume. Different resumes, right, for the different positions, right? So, all right, if you have defensive skills and if you have architecture skills, you don't have to like rip it all up and start over again in order to tailor your resume for those different positions, right? And yes, it's a PETA to have different ones, but it will pay off. Like if you truly are that good, a subject matter expert at that many different things, it does pay to say, okay, look, here is all the content you want to see for this job, and do the same for every job you're applying for. The tricky part is don't go by job descriptions. Find somebody who's going to tell you what the gig actually entails, and do that. Anyone else? In the back.
What's the biggest mistake people make during the interview process to where they like the resume, they followed your instructions, they went to the interview, and then found out?
Again, soft skills. So one thing I see a lot in IT jobs in general, and a big piece of advice I give is be enthusiastic. If you actually want the job, say so. It's okay to say, I want this job. I want to work for you. I think that this is a good fit for me. I think I could be impactful in this organization. I've turned down candidates because I was like, he just didn't seem like he wanted it enough. Or he seemed like he was just kicking tires. So that's a big one. Yeah, be humble, be available, and be enthusiastic. This also applies to dating. In the back. Yes, you.
Heard a lot of talk about resumes.
Yep.
Cover letters.
Yeah, so in this hyper-connected age, a cover letter formalized, like the way they teach you to do in I think high school, I hope. Really not necessary, but just a couple lines saying, hi, I'm Joe Blue Team. I noticed your posting for whatever job, and I think that I could be very successful in this position. What time would be good to talk? That's fine. Perfectly sufficient. Sir.
Going on cover letters, I was recently told by a hiring manager that they rejected half of the applicants that were qualified because they didn't follow the posting instructions that said you must have a cover letter.
You don't want to work there?
Yeah, actually I do.
Oh.
It's a good place to work.
Okay. So?
It went to this person can't follow directions. That's what the hiring manager said.
I mean, that's a decent point, but if they're that snuggled up with HR, and I understand what you're saying, jump through the hoop. No, that may be demonstrating that you can follow directions, but I would be cautious, personally, if it were me. But yeah, if there's a hoop that they say, you got to jump through this hoop, just jump through the hoop. Yes? The gentleman in the weird blue shirt.
Would you say that including accomplishments with related metrics on a resume, such as architecture of this or that system, which allowed the company to reduce headcount by X, increase productivity by Y, is that having a list of that, is that too douchey, or is that actual legitimate factual information that people actually need?
That is legitimate factual information that people are actually interested in, because that just demonstrates impact, right?
Right.
This is the positive impact I had in this job. Yeah.
On the opposite end, things like Mensa are the douchey scale.
Oh, I'm in trouble. I knew I was going to be in trouble. So, all right. Yeah, so we got into a conversation about this. Somebody had accomplished, highly intelligent, in parentheses, Mensa member. I mean, that's kind of like saying I'm elite because I have a CEH. So, no, I mean, it just seems like a false flag.
What if you roll it up into a list of minor certifications?
Yeah. Don't make me think that's the best thing about you if you have a CEH or if you're in Mensa. If having a CEH or being in Mensa is the best thing about you, you got problems, son. I feel bad for you, son. So we got time. I'm very friendly. Come talk to me. I am very open to being bought beer. And I'll be here all weekend, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.